That's a very important question, because what has happened, or what is happening now with the entry of new market players, is that a good number of them actually fall outside the scope of postal sector regulation in many jurisdictions. This is something that as CRASA we are trying to address through promoting a harmonized postal sector definition methodology that our regulators can use. But to go back to your question, what is happening is that you have a multitude of operators who are falling outside regulatory reach, and because of that, consumers are left exposed to several ills. The things that we take for granted, for instance, such as your parcel not being opened without authority, or it being lost altogether, or it being misdirected to the wrong destination. All these kinds of protections do not exist for those operators that are outside the regulatory scope. So one of the main things that regulators need to do to protect consumers is to formalize those activities which are happening on the periphery of the regulated space, bring those operators into the influence of regulatory oversight so that basic rights and obligations can be handed out to them in the interest of consumer protection. Postal sector regulation as a field is relatively new, and you cannot find, or you will be hard pressed to find right now, formal academic education on postal sector regulation anywhere in the world. You will be lucky to find it. Yes, there are institutions there. I know in Asia, I know we did try to partner with a university in South Africa to offer some kind of training, formalized training in the sector regulation. But this is really a gap which regulators are facing. Just the formal training, the academic training in postal sector regulation as a field of expertise. The other gaps obviously are their reach. As I mentioned before, there are several operators which are offering their business outside the scope of regulation. Identifying, locating, and bringing them on board is a key challenge that regulators face. And mind you, you're talking about a relatively small government institution with limited staff, limited reach. Sometimes they have limited operational capacity to actually undertake this broad kind of work, which is nationwide in its nature. So that kind of capacity limitation is definitely something that is handicapping a number of regulators. One of the other issues is the actual behavior of operators themselves. And you will find that certain operators have been the first movers in the industry. They have amassed considerable market power, market dominance. Some of them are global multinational companies with a lot of corporate power behind them. And they do sometimes tend to resist regulatory oversight, and this becomes a challenge for regulators across the board. So yes, these are some of the challenges that I would immediately identify. The market on its own cannot deliver certain outcomes that we are looking for. These are desirable outcomes, one of which is universality. If left to its own devices, in most countries, you will find that the operators will cherry pick the most lucrative markets and concentrate themselves there. That will leave other markets, other locations, geographical locations, devoid of any service at all. So you do need regulatory intervention in order to make that happen, to mandate a designated operator to deliver in those far-flung areas and to offer services to those particular locations. So as a regulator, your fundamental reason for existing has not changed. It is not likely to change. Universal access and service is one of those functions. Consumer protection is one of them. Quality of service is one of them. What has changed is the environment we find ourselves in. It is an increasingly digitalized environment now. We are looking at services which are offered now more than ever using a mobile app. So a consumer will be able to call for, they will be able to pay for, they will be able to track and do, and they are actually doing all this using their mobile phone. So how has traditional regulation kept pace with this evolution in service delivery? Do we, for instance, have the capability to track quality of service on the same apps which consumers are accessing the services? When the delivery is confirmed through an app, an SMS, do we have the capability to track that delivery of that messaging and match that to the quality of service standards that we have set? So really the challenge for regulators is to move into this digitalized environment, still taking care of the same fundamental functions for which we exist, but to leverage the digitalized environment to effectively do our work. There is no other global institution like the UPU which can bring together regulators from all over the world into one room on one platform to discuss regulatory issues that are common to everyone. My belief is that only the UPU can achieve that. My only intervention in this is that, are we doing enough as the UPU? Right now, I believe we are on the cusp of concluding a very successful postal regulation conference, another one in the series. But my personal view is that we need to go above and beyond the conference. If the UPU has been able over the years to cultivate and establish a global rules-based system on the operational side, for the exchange of international mail and parcels and documents. If on the operator side we have been able to do this as the UPU, why can we not do the same for regulatory thought, regulatory consensus, regulatory approaches? Only the UPU has the mandate to bring together regulators from across the member states to sit in one room, in one structure, formal structure such as a committee, a technical working group, and the purpose of such a gathering would be to actually discuss the real regulatory issues that are common to all the member states. So for instance, if we're talking about licensing, why should one country license in a particular way when the general licensing concerns are similar to those that are being faced in the multitude of other UPU member countries? Why can we not have a common approach? Especially if this approach is arrived at in consensus, where we have the real technocrats bringing to bear their thoughts and their ideas on a particular issue and resolving to go a certain way. I believe the UPU can do this. If we can do this for the exchange of international mail, why can we not do it for the regulation, for the regulatory side of things? I think this is possible. And this is the true mandate of the UPU. The UPU represents not only the designated post operators, it represents the governments themselves at the ministerial platform, and importantly for our question, the regulators as well. We are part of the UPU.